Welcome to Life in Biology. I'm Dr. Joel Graff, and this is episode number 7. Today we're going to be talking about a new oncolytic viral therapy called T-VEC. Just made the news this last week. Anyway, this is a follow-up to the last episode where we talked about human papillomaviruses that cause cancer in humans. But virus infections aren't always bad if you're in terms of cancer, and we're gonna follow up on some observations that sometimes having a viral infection can lead to cancer remission. Anyway, so what is this T-VEC that I'm talking about? Well, it's a virus that has a long name, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'll go with Talamogene Laherpa Rep-VEC. And so the T-VEC is, the T is the first letter in Talamogene, and then VEC is the last letter in this second word. Anyway, is a herpa is for herpes virus. So this is a herpes virus therapy. What's unique about this is that it's the first FDA approved oncolytic virus. And onco, just to back up a second, onco, you often see this in relation to cancer. It's from Greek onkos, which means bulk or mass. But anyway, so this is a cancer lysing virus, and October 27th, 2015 was when this was approved. However, back in 2005, the Chinese government approved a different oncolytic virus therapy, and maybe some others since then. And so that's led to some people traveling to China to get viral therapy. But now we're starting to get them approved in the U.S. So that's a good thing. So what is viral therapy? I kind of mentioned this already, but back in the mid-1800s, it was noticed by some physicians that patients with leukemia sometimes went into remission after they had the flu. And at that time, people didn't know what caused the flu. It wasn't until about 1900, give or take a few years, that viruses were defined and isolated. So between these two things, they got to the point where cancer patients were routinely infected with viruses in the 1950s and 1960s, and the outcomes from these trials were either good or bad. Sometimes the person went into remission. Other times the person died from the virus therapy. So there's definitely some need for improvement, and this kind of using viruses for cancer therapy went out of vogue a little bit after that. But we've had renewed interest since the 1990s, and that's because we've developed tools for doing genetic engineering. So now we can take a virus that maybe didn't have the greatest safety profile and change it a bit and come up with a better cancer therapy. So what is genetic engineering? This is just an example. There's all sorts of things you can do with genetic engineering, but you might modify a gene within a genome to change a trait. And so how doing this with viruses can really probably be pinpointed back to 1981, when a postdoc in David Baltimore's lab cloned the first genome of a human virus. The guy that did that is Vincent Racaniello, and he has an excellent virology podcast called This Week in Virology, if you're interested. And what's kind of interesting is by cloning the genome, what that means is they put it into a plasmid, and then they can use a bacteria to make more copies of the genome, and then you can start working with that genome. It allowed for what is known as reverse genetics to be developed, and that's the ability to take that piece of that genome that's being replicated within a bacteria, change the genome sequence, and then take your clone genome, put it back into a human cell, and now you've got viruses with slightly different properties. Kind of interesting, Vincent Racaniello, who did this first cloning, he doesn't like the term reverse genetics, but it's reverse because forward genetics is like when we go back to Mendel, where he saw a trait, and then from seeing a trait, you go down and find the gene associated with that trait. So for this T-VEC basics, so this newly approved cancer therapy, it's for melanoma, and in the study, clinical stage 3 clinical trials, they saw that the patients, the tumors shrank in the patients, and it extended the life of the patients by 4.4 months. The virus had to be injected directly into a tumor, and an interesting thing is that even though it was injected into one tumor, they saw tumors shrink in other areas of the body, and this suggests that maybe the immune system's getting involved. The immune system can go around and look for the cancer anywhere in the body and attack it. And the reason that the immune response might be a likely cause is that they purposely changed this T-VEC virus so that it encoded a human gene. The gene's called CSF2. It makes something called a cytokine, and a cytokine is used by the immune system for cells to talk to each other, called GM-CSF. But we'll get into cytokines and what GM-CSF might be later. But I think that there's a bright future ahead as far as viral therapies for cancer go. The cards were kind of stacked against T-VEC because these were used in patients that had advanced melanoma, and melanoma is a pretty aggressive type of cancer, and so to be able to extend the life and shrink tumors is a pretty notable achievement. And the virus was used alone, but there are therapies that you can treat cancer patients with, chemotherapies and things like that. And so it's possible that maybe a combination between the T-VEC virus and other therapies might do the trick. Systemic delivery, and by that what I mean is if you inject the virus into the bloodstream, the virus will be able to get to everywhere in the body, and the trial used just injections straight into one tumor. By systemic delivery, maybe it'll get to all the tumors better, and then or it might stimulate the immune system better. Immunotherapy. So this is just a good example, and one of the just one of many recent examples where treatments are being developed that specifically target the immune system to get involved. So rather than just trying to stop a cancer cell from replicating, you get the immune system to come in, think that the cancer is a foreign entity, and attack the cancer. So I think that you're going to see a lot more of this viral therapy coming along. There's plenty of them. Plenty of these virus therapies are currently in clinical trials, and so it's only a matter of time before a few more get approved by the FDA. But at least we got one. Talk to you soon.